So good day everyone, especially to you sir. I am Mexivan Felicelda and the purpose of this recorded video is to recording myself about reading this Article 14 and 15. So Article 14 is the aggravating circumstances. So the following are aggravating circumstances. So number one, that advantage be taken by the offender of his public position. So here the requisites. First is the offender is a public officer. Second is the commission of the crime would not have been possible without the powers, resources, and influence of the office he holds. And the second is that the, that the crime be committed in contempt or with insult to the public authorities. So the requisites, number one is the offender knows that a public authority is present. Number two, the public authority is engaged in the exercise of his functions. Number three, the public authority is not the victim of the crime. The fourth, the public authority's presence did not prevent the criminal act. So number three, that the following aggravating circumstances. Number three is that the act be committed with insult or in disregard of the respect due to the offended party on account of his rank, age, sex, or that it be committed in the dwelling of the offended party if the latter has not given provocation. So, circumstances, rank, age, sex may be taken into account only in crimes against person or honor. It cannot be invoked in crimes against property. And the requisites for provocation all must concur. So the first is given by the owner of the dwelling. Second is sufficient. Third is immediate to the commission of the crime. And number four, that the act be committed with one abuse of confidence or two obvious ungratefulness. So the requisite of abuse of confidence, offended party has trusted the offender, and or B, offender abuse such trust, abuse of confidence facilitated the commission of the crime. And the requisite of abuse, ungratefulness. A. Ungratefulness must be obvious that is there must be something which the offender should owe the victim, a debt of gratitude for. So number five, that the crime be committed in the palace of the chief executive or in his presence or when public authorities are engaged in the discharge of their duties or in a place dedicated to religious worship. So the requisites for aggravating circumstances for place of worship. First is the crime occurred in the public office. Public authorities are actually performing their public duties. The crime occurred in a place dedicated to the worship of God regardless of religion. Offender must have decided to commit the crime when he entered the place of worship. And number 6A, that the crime be committed in the night time or in an uninhabited place by a band whenever such circumstances may facilitate the commission of the offense. So the requisites, the place facilitated the commission or commission of the crime. Second is deliberately sought and not incidental to the commission or omission of the crime. Third is the taking advantage of for the purpose of impunity. 6b, whenever more than three armed malefactors shall have acted together in the commission of an offense, it shall be deemed to have been committed by a band. So the requisites, if one of the four armed malefactors is a principal by inducement, they do not form a band because it is undoubtedly con- connoted that he had no direct participation. Band is inherent in robbery committed in band and brigandage. Band, or it is not considered in the crime of rape. And the last, it has been applied in treason and in robbery with homicide. Number seven, that the crime be committed on the occasion of a conflagration, shipwreck, earthquake, epidemic, or other calamity or misfortune. So here are the requisites. First is committed when there is a calamity or misfortune, conflagration, shipwreck, epidemic, and offender took advantage of the state of confusion or chaotic condition from such misfortune. Number eight is that the crime that the crime be committed with the aid of one armed man or two person who ensure or afford impunity. So the requisites, um, first is that armed men or persons took part in the commission of the crime, directly or indirectly. Second, that the accused availed himself of their aid or relied upon them when the crime was committed. So, number nine, that the accused is a recidivist. Um, recidivist, one who at the time of his trial for one crime shall have been previously convicted by final judgment of another crime embraced in the same title of the revised penal code. So here are the requisites of that accused is a recidivist. So first is offender is on trial for an offense. Second, he was previously convicted by final judgment of another crime. Third is that both the first and the second offenses are embraced in the same title of the revised penal code. Fourth is the offender is convicted of the new offense. Number 10 is that the offender has been previously punished for an offense to which the law attaches an equal or greater penalty or for two or more crimes to which it attaches a lighter penalty. So, number 11, that the crime be committed in consideration of a price, reward, or promise. So there are the requisites. At least two principals. Number one is the principal by inducement, and the second is the principal by direct participation. So the price, reward, or promise should be previous to and in consideration of the commission of the criminal act. So both applicable to both principal. Number 12 is that the crime be committed by means of inundation, fire, poison, explosion, stranding, a vessel or intentional damage thereto, or derailment of a locomotive, or by use of any other artifice involving great waste or run. So the requisite, the wasteful means were used by the offender to accomplish a criminal purpose. Number 13, that the act be committed with the evident premeditation. So there are the requisites that the act be committed with evident premeditation. First is um, the time when the offender determined to commit the crime. Second, an act manifestly indicating that the culprit has clung to his determination. Third, a sufficient lapse of time between the determination and execution to allow him to reflect upon the consequences of his act and to allow his conscience to overcome the resolution of his will. Number 14, that one craft or fraud or disguise be employed. So it is employed as a scheme in the execution of the crime. Example, accused pretended to be members of the constabulary. Accused in order to perpetrate rape use chocolates containing drugs. Number 15, that advantage be taken of superior strength or means be employed to weaken the defense. To purposely use excessive force out of the proportion to the means of defense available to the person attacked. So there are the requisites of means to weaken defense. First is means we purposely sought to weaken the defense of the victim to resist the assault. Second, the means used must not totally eliminate possible defense of the victim. Otherwise, it will fall under treachery. Number 16, that the act be committed with treachery or alevosía. So treachery when the offender commits any of the crime against the person, employing means, methods, or forms in the execution thereof, which tend directly and especially to ensure its execution without risk to himself arising from the defense which the offended party might make. So there are the requisites. Number one, that at the time of the attack, the victim was not in the position to defend himself. Second, that the offender consciously adopted the particular means, method, or form of attack employed by him. So, number 17, that the means be employed or circumstances brought about which add ignominy to the natural effects of the acts. So ignominy is a circumstance pertaining to the moral order which adds disgrace and obloquy to the material injury caused by the crime. So the requisites of um, these natural effects of the acts and the ignominy. So first is crime must be against chastity, less serious physical injuries, light or grave coercion, and murder. Second, the circumstance made the crime more humiliating and shameful for the victim. Number 18, that the crime be committed after an unlawful entry. So, unlawful entry when an entrance is effective by a way not intended for the purpose. So, meant to effect entrance and not exit. So, number 19, that as a means to the commission of the crime, a wall, roof, door, or window be broken. So, there are the requisites. Number one is a wall, roof, window, or door was broken. Second, they were broken to effect entrance. So number 20, that the crime be committed with the aid of persons under 15 years of age or by means of motor vehicles, airships, or other similar means. Number 21, that the wrong done in the commission of the crime be deliberately augmented by causing other wrong not necessary for its commission. So cruelty, when the culprit enjoys and delights in making his victim suffer slowly and gradually, causing him unnecessary physical pain in the consummation of the criminal act. So the requisites, um, first is that the injury cause by be deliberately increased by causing other wrong. Second, that the other wrong be unnecessary for execution of the purpose of the offender. So, um, and overall of the article article 14, aggravating circumstances, it refers to the factors that make the severity of situation or offense greater in a legal context. These factors can increase the culpability of a defendant. For example, in a criminal history or the impact of the crime on the victim. So these factors are considered during sentencing. So fifteen. Article 15 is the alternative circumstances. Alternative circumstances are those which must be taken into consideration as aggravating or mitigating according to the nature and effects of the crime and the other condition attending its commission. So they are the relationship, intoxication, and the degree of instruction and education of the offender. So the alternative circumstance of relationship shall be taken into consideration when the offended party and the spouse, ascendant, descendant, legitimate, natural, or adopted brother or sisters. So there are the relationship and the mitigating circumstances. So in crimes against property like robbery, usurpation, fraudulent, insolvency, or arson. An aggravating circumstance in crimes against persons in cases where the offender or when the offender and the offended party are relatives of the same level as killing a brother, adopted brother, or half brother. Always aggravating in crimes against a chastity. So intoxication, um, mitigating circumstance. A, if intoxication is not habitual. B, if intoxication is not subsequent to the plan to commit a felony. So in aggravating circumstance, A, if intoxication is habitual, such habit must be actual and confirmed. B, it if it's intentional is subsequent to the plan to commit a felony. So the degree of instruction and education. So mitigating circumstance. Um, Low degree of instruction, education, or lack of it, because he does not fully realize the consequences of his criminal act, not just mere illiteracy but lack of an intelligence. Aggravating circumstance, high degree of instruction and education, offender avails himself of his learning and committing the offense. So, in Article 15, which is the alternative circumstances, um, um, typically refers to different situation or ano conditions that could occur instead of the current or expected ones. It implies considering various possibilities or outcomes that diverse from the usual or anticipated path. So, so that's all, and thank you for your listening in this my recorded video. And thank you.